This is the Always Direct podcast, and we talk with movers and shakers of this world to learn about the ups and downs they went through to get where they are now. Let's get started with the show.
My name is John. I'm the founder of Always Direct Mail and Papa Ray's Pizza franchise. I am here today on the Always Direct podcast with a gentleman who I'm very excited to have on today. His name is Ryan Gromfin. If you're in the restaurant industry or you watch YouTube, I'm sure you've heard of him. He is the founder of therestaurantboss.com and clickbacon.com. He is awesome. You should check out his channel on YouTube, and you will learn a ton. Thanks for being on here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Like I just told you, I've been watching your videos a long time. You really, even though I've been in the business for a long time as a restaurateur, I really hate doing the numbers, believe it or not. Which that's like the number one thing you push. And so you forced me to really reevaluate what I do, and so I really give you a lot of credit. You do a really good job on your channel.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Really appreciate that. I'm happy that you're getting some results from some of the bullshit that I push out there.
Yeah. And we franchise, that's not bullshit at all, but we franchise our restaurants, and even our franchisees, sometimes they don't want to do certain things, or they don't understand. Sometimes I just forward them your video. I'm like, just follow this guy. I swear to God I do. And they're like, who's this? I said, he's good. He's a restaurant boss. Just watch it out. He'll explain to you why. Sometimes they don't even want to listen to me. They want to listen to somebody that they don't even know. And a lot
of times it's funny because one of my steps of development is, it's like the third or fourth step in a development plan, is you have to get someone else to say the same thing you're saying. My kid, doesn't matter what I say, it's not real until someone else says it. We hear that all the time. You'll be saying something to your children or your employees all the time, and then they're like, hey man, I was watching this video on YouTube and some guy said this. You're like, I've been telling you that for 10 years.
Yeah. What's wrong with you?
No, you just have to hear it from other people sometimes.
One of the best tips I got from your videos, all right? One of the best tips, and I'll tell you, I'll never forget it because
I'm nervous.
No, it was a good one. It was like, I had opened up a bunch of restaurants, and you can get burnt out by dealing with employees that don't listen to you, specifically when you're trying to get them to use checklists, or when you walk in and they're on their phone and you've asked them like 14,000 times, or they didn't mop properly, and you've asked them to follow a checklist and really go through it. So I used to get really mad. And I had all the systems in place, but I used to get so furious, livid, like I was shaking with anger. And I didn't want to lose them because they were good in many other ways. But, so then I started thinking of them as my children, because you said in one of your videos, treat them like your child. If your child was lying about brushing his teeth, would you want to choke him out? No. You treat him, just keep reminding him. A manager's duties is to remind over and over again, encourage them to continue. Even if they don't do it, they mean well. But you just need to nudge them constantly. And so I took that to heart. It actually helped me with my mindset. So it was like a paradigm shift for me. So I'm just.
Well, if we could take a minute here, I want to really thank you for sharing that, because that's probably one of my most controversial videos. Is like, I forget exactly what it's titled. We'll be sure to get you the link to it. We'll put a link somewhere in here. But if you just search for The Restaurant Boss, what it means to be a manager or manager job, I think it's like a manager's job, something like that. But I sometimes call managers babysitters, and people take offense at that. I've had a lot of comments where people are like, I can't believe you're saying that managers are babysitters, like this or that. And I get it. When I say it's a babysitter, it's because those are the words that I hear. I'm sure you've heard a manager walk up to you and say, sometimes I just feel like I'm babysitting, right? That wasn't a word that I made up. That's not a word that came out of nowhere. I hear other people come to me all the time, and people used to come to me, and I even said it when I was a manager. I feel like all I'm doing is babysitting, but in reality, that kind of is what we're doing. Now, if you don't like that word, I apologize, but if all of our employees did everything they were supposed to do, how they were supposed to do it, when they were supposed to do it, without any problems at all, every one of you who are listening to this who is a manager would not have a job. We would have owners and employees.
Boom.
It wouldn't be a pyramid. We would literally have owners and then employees, and that would be it. So all of you who are managers out there who are aspiring to one day be an owner, who have anyone who works even remotely for you, under you, with you, just think about that for a second. The whole purpose of your job is to make sure that the people who report to you do their job. Isn't that kind of what a babysitter does? When I leave my 6-year-old at home, well, before COVID, with a babysitter, the babysitter's job was to make sure that when we come home, my child is alive and safe. Your job is to feed them, to help them go to the potty, to entertain them, to make sure that they're alive when I get home. It's
Absolutely.
kind of no different. And I apologize if in any way that word offends anyone, but you're the Always Direct podcast. I'm the Always Direct restaurant boss. I'm not going to sugarcoat this shit.
Yeah, you got to go straight for it. And you know what? People who are watching this, most of the time, they're owners and managers themselves. So, I'm sure some people, there's always going to, if you don't have haters, you're not doing a good job.
That's what I say. What I say. I agree.
Look at Trump. He lives off of that. So, all right. I see here, I did download Click Bacon for myself about maybe 6 months to maybe a year ago. And then I once again, I'm not a big, I couldn't do it and I didn't have any integration, but I thought it's a great software. So I want to give a good plug to that. I mean, it was awesome. I know a couple of people that use it and they love it. And then
what POS are you using?
I was using a company called Microworks POS. Okay.
As long as you can export a report, we can drag that report into Bacon and you can get your daily numbers. No problem.
Oh, okay. And then I just signed up 3 of the restaurants to Toast. So
and Toast is no problem either.
Yeah, Toast is much easier. But you've got 90-something thousand followers. You're kicking butt, man. God bless you. I mean, that's awesome.
I'm trying. I watch videos about guys shooting guns on a range and they have 6 million followers. So I'm like,
yeah, maybe
I'm trying to change people's lives, and I have 90,000, and all you got to do is go shoot a gun, and you get 6 million followers. But hey,
well, maybe you need to start blowing up some pizzas.
Maybe I need to start blowing up some stuff.
Honestly, you know what though? They might have 1 million followers, but if your followers, I feel like they're just way more loyal. Like when you promote something, they're just like, okay, this let's look into this. This is serious because, they're willing to purchase it because they're in the restaurant business. They trust what you're saying. And they're hoping that you're going to test it before you promote it, which is huge, So the numbers can be deceiving. Definitely.
I just joke around. I know.
Yeah.
I appreciate
You're doing great though, honestly. So tell me how did you get started the YouTube channel? I mean, I went back to your early videos, and because I like to do that with YouTube channels to see where they started.
They're rough.
Yeah. How long ago? When did you actually start?
I think we probably put out our first video in like 12 or 13, either late 12 or early 13. So the way that the Restaurant Boss got started is, I'll give you guys kind of the quick and dirty of it, is I've been a chef. That's what I was trained for. Went to culinary school. Worked in some really nice properties, 5-star hotels and such as a cook. And I was doing just fine. I was working at the best hotels in the world, had a great resume at a really young age, but as the author of the E-Myth, Michael Gerber, would say, at about 25, 26 years old, I had an entrepreneurial seizure. And I thought, hey, well, I'm good at cooking. Why don't I go and do this myself? Well, there's a lot more to doing it yourself than just being good at the job, at cooking. But I was smart enough to say that before I go and do this myself, I should go work at some more independent restaurants because that's what I wanted to create. Well, that was kind of the start of it. I was just shocked at what I saw. From the difference of growing up in a 5-star hotel, that's all I had experience in was high-end country clubs and 5-star and 4-star hotels, doing very well, culinary school, everything, but then going into freestanding restaurants where kitchens were tiny, no systems, no processes, no locker rooms, no maintenance departments, no marketing teams. Catering sales are done by, the host or a server or an owner's wife. There was none of the stuff that I was used to. No checklist, no prep sheets. It was just, you just come in, you work hard, you get yelled at, you go home, you get a paycheck, life is good. And so that was kind of the start of it. I'm like, things have to be different. But I kept telling myself, well, when I do it, it will be different. Then I ended up partnering up with a gentleman and we opened up some restaurants together. And then I found myself in the same spot that I was judging people for. I was so busy and so overwhelmed that I never had the time to create the systems and the processes and the procedures. And I kept saying, I'll get to it because I knew what I needed. And I think like a lot of the owners that I work with, they kind of know what they need, but they're just stuck. And so unfortunately for me, I had kind of a health scare at a very young age, very healthy individual. I had some pains and some things like no one should ever have in their life. My wife drove me to the hospital in the middle of the night, and turns out I had burnt a hole in my stomach. I had an ulcer. I was leaking stomach acid. It hurt
Oh,
like
geez.
crazy. And this is at 28 years old. And the doctor basically said, like, why don't you take like 2 weeks off work, chill out? I'm like, can't you just give me a pill? Like, what do you mean take 2 weeks off work, right? You talk to most restaurant operators, you tell them to take 2 weeks off work, they think you're crazy. So I took one day off work, and I spent that whole day asking myself the question, what's going to be different in 5 years? If I don't make the change now, what's going to be different? I keep saying I'm going to do this stuff, but I didn't. And so at that moment, I hired some coaches. I hired a life coach to help me get my life figured out, and I hired a business coach to help me get my business figured out. And a lot of the stuff I already knew, I just needed help. I needed shortcuts. I needed someone to say, don't do it that way, do it this way, because I've already done it that way with 20 other clients, and this is the way that works better. And so we started turning those restaurants around. Things were going really well. Unfortunately, like most partnerships, that partnership dissolved, and I had an opportunity to go out on my own and start consulting. And that's where I figured, I'm like, you know what? I got to teach people how to do this right. I got to share with them what I've learned, and we got to go and make a change in this industry. And so that's sort of the short version of how I got into what I'm doing now.
Wow. So what was your first move? I'm going to create a website, write a book, or start the YouTube channel? What was your first approach?
First move was the website and YouTube channel. We needed a way to build a website. Obviously that's the part you need. That's the hub of everything. Then we needed a way to get eyeballs on your stuff. And still to this day, in my opinion, the absolute best way to get eyeballs on your stuff is through YouTube.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm doing this. I mean, I opened a bunch of restaurants. We still have 5 in the system. We're opening up one right now in Des Plaines, Illinois. And then we started a direct mail marketing company specifically for the restaurants. But then other people were asking me to, do it for them too, because we have a weekly marketing program. I have a lot of cousins in the restaurant space. So then now I have customers all over the country, and it's turned out to be a very nice business because it's centrally located from one office. And I'm doing direct mail for people from California to Miami. So
Awesome.
Yeah, but then I needed more customers consistently. And I'm like, you know what? Let me start a podcast, interview other restaurateurs, and then learn what they're doing. And maybe from there, I can get some good referrals. And actually, it's been great. I got my first customer after my 3rd podcast, which was, it's fantastic. And I'm meeting awesome people like yourself. I mean, honestly, what else you want?
Cool. No, I agree. And that's why whenever I get an invite from anyone to jump on these, I'm always like, yeah, let's do it. And to me, I believe in specialization. Like, I could have a podcast. I could be stronger on Twitter. I could be stronger here or there. But for me, we're just a small business like you. Like, we have limited resources. So for me, I like to go deep. So we're focusing on YouTube, and we just keep getting better on YouTube and better on YouTube and do more on YouTube.
Yeah.
Whereas most people, unfortunately, focus on getting wider. Yeah. Yep. They're like, oh, I got a podcast and it's doing fine. Now let's do this. Now let's do that. Now let's do that. But until you have mastered one discipline, and when I mean master, I mean it is operating at 98%. Like, there's very little room for improvement. You are just crushing it. Unless you have unlimited budget and unlimited resources, we would be fools to be distracted by a podcast. I love podcasts. I listen to podcasts. I think I could have a great podcast, but we're focused on YouTube.
Yeah, and that's the Always Direct podcast. I question whether I should have called it the Always Direct, whatever. I don't know what the name would be, but because I want to do one-on-one videos where, like, I'm just talking into a camera as well. Like, maybe I have some advice or how to do, menu engineering or something, because I got a direct mail company. And maybe I want to post it on there. So I don't want to just focus on podcasting, but I want to focus on helping people get educated through the channel in any way, shape, or form. And a lot of times podcasting is nice because you can listen to it while you're driving, you're working out. So I personally, when I listen to people, educational channels like yourself, I have YouTube Red, and I put it on, and I turn it. I'll be going for a jog or whatever, and I'll just turn it off. I won't actually watch the video, but I'll just listen to it. So I don't really go through the podcasting channels. I just go everything through YouTube, which I think a lot of people do. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I think more and more people are starting to do things like that. Like, we have all of our videos transcribed. both for our blog, for the people who want to read them, and then also for the subtitles. And then, of course, like you said, you can get YouTube Read and other things. So I think it's really just a matter of focusing in on what it is. And again, I'm saying this more to your restaurant listeners of like, what is it that you're focusing on as a restaurant owner? Where is your niche as for marketing or for operations where you are a master? And that's one thing. I haven't looked at the menus at your restaurant. So one of the big things I say with a lot of my current pizza guys is, you know, they've got hamburgers, they've got calzones, they've got pizzas, they got salads, they got sandwiches, they got wraps, they got entrees, they got all this stuff. And I'm like, you know, that's great, but what do you specialize in? What is it that you're the best in the world at, or at least the best in your city, where people have to come to you for that? And I know we're going to talk about COVID. I know we're going to talk about some other things. This is going to lead into that, but
maybe we will, maybe we won't. Let's just see where it goes.
Just have to specialize. I believe in digging the deepest well possible. And, you know, Zig Ziglar used to tell this great story about, you know, a guy that wanted to make some more money. And so his wife started yelling at him, and he's like, well, we live in Texas. We should go dig a hole in our backyard. Maybe we'll find some oil. And so he runs out in the backyard, digs a hole, doesn't find anything. She says, dig another hole. He digs another hole. This goes on and on and on until one day he comes running in the house. He's like, honey, we have oil in our backyard. She's like, that's amazing. She's like, put a well on it and keep digging more holes. Well, that's not what ExxonMobil does, right? When ExxonMobil finds an oil well, they dig that hole and they pump it and they dig it deeper and they pump it and they put a bigger pump and a bigger pump. And then when it runs dry, they inject steam into it. And then when that runs dry, they side drill. And then when that runs dry, they frack it and they dynamite it. But they don't move on to another hole until that hole has been sucked dry for every drop of oil. Because the hardest part is finding where the oil is. But so many times in our business, it's crazy. I talk to restaurant owners all the time who say, like, you know, things used to be good and now they're just not so good. I'm like, well, what were you doing 5 years ago when things were good? Well, we used to do this and this. And I'm like, and are you still doing that? They're like, no, we're not. I'm like, well, why did you stop? Right? Like, it's so funny when people talk to me about, like, well, we used to do really well on radio advertisements. Well, then why'd you stop? Or we used to do really well on direct mailing. Well, why'd you stop? Usually one thing happens, they stop, they move on, and then they just forget about it. Like, if you want to do direct mailings, if you're an operator who loves direct mailing, then do it and test it and go deeper and try zip codes and try different colors and try different fonts and try different call to actions. And don't stop ever if it's working for you, but don't move on to the next thing until you have absolutely mastered what you're doing.
Absolutely, Ryan. And well, the biggest problem for, yes, it's true. There's no doubt about it. But you're wearing so many hats, and Jose didn't show up today, and Jessica is on her phone constantly, and the customer standing there, and nobody's having a conversation with them. And you know, the Greco food vendor just popped in the middle of lunch, and the check's not there. I mean, it's just nonstop chaos. I mean,
yeah, but all the more reason you can't spread your focus out in all the different areas.
Damn right. So I want to go back to something you said earlier. It's funny you said this, but I'm a big believer, big lover of coaches, and you know, getting help when you need it. You know, when I was first franchising, I hired a gentleman who had built, I think, 150 honey ham franchises, and I reached out to him through a friend, and I said, listen, I'd love to talk to you an hour a week or an hour every 2 weeks and kind of just tell you what's going on in my mind and through my franchising process and kind of get some feedback from you. And I did that. It was expensive, but it was the best 3 or 4 months worth of conversations I've ever had. It gave me clear focus. It helped me make decisions very easily. It helped me find out what my weak points are. He pointed out some character flaws, you know, which was hard to deal with sometimes, but you're like, oh, okay, maybe you're right. And then I started seeing them everywhere. So, you know, it's amazing how many restaurants don't utilize the power of one-on-one coaching or, you know, advice. And I see on your website, I'm on your website right here, and I noticed you do have that. I don't know if that's something you focus on because that's hard because you really can't scale that. But do you still?
Coaching's a big part of my business. Yep.
Okay. So here it seems very reasonable. A 90-minute session,
$397.
What is
Yep.
that? So it's an hour and a half for $397. I think that's, once a month, get on a phone with Ryan. I mean, you couldn't spend better money if you ask me, honestly.
I would agree. And I do weekly coaching. I do monthly coaching, different packages depending. But it's amazing how much money we'll spend on golf coaches, on piano coaches. And there's nothing wrong with that. My son has a golf coach. My son has a tennis coach. He's about to start with piano. And of course, that's what we want. We want him to be the best. But what's hilarious is we think of this thing of coaching like we only relate to it to like kids or like athletics. But why would you spend money improving your golf game that's not going to do a thing for your bottom line? And don't get me wrong, that's fun. There's nothing wrong with that. I have a golf coach that I see every couple of months. But if you're going to pay money for that kind of coach, why wouldn't you have a coach to help you progress through your career, to make more money, to create more freedom in your life so you could play more golf or whatever it is that you want to do? The best actors in the world, they have coaches. They don't become the best actor in the world by accident. They have the best actors in the world have coaches for everything. They have movement coaches. They have vocal coaches. They have language coaches. They have everything to help them. The same thing with the best musicians, the best at anything in the world, even Tom Brady or Michael Jordan or any Tiger Woods, right? They all have coaches that help them with things that they're wanting to always be improving or staying the best at.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. I actually live by it. Whenever I need somebody, I find out who's in the field that I'm in, and if somebody is an expert, and I just go and grab them, and I pay whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be forever, just a 2-month, 3-month, 6-month, year long, however long it takes to get you from where you are to where you want to be.
It's a shortcut to success.
Shortcut to success. Clickbait. So what's your main focus right now? Is your main focus clickbaiting?
So we're building an ecosystem here for restaurant owners. So we have training for the owner or the highly motivated manager who's ready to become an owner, which is called Scale. You can see that at Scale.
Oh yeah, I downloaded it. I signed up for it.
Awesome.
I didn't read it, but I did sign up for it. But I didn't pay for anything. I just downloaded it. You sent me an email. I clicked on it. I filled out my info. Then you sent me another email, but I haven't followed through. But I'm going to, definitely.
So yeah, we've got a course for owners. Then we have a course for managers called Restaurant Manager Certification. So basically I suggest that all managers go through that, or even owners go through that course themselves. But then all you have to do is pay, I think it's $29 or $49 to add on. So every time you hire a new manager, just add them onto that so the new manager can go through the course. Like we talked about earlier, sometimes people need to hear things from other people. So we've got courses for owners, we've got courses for managers, and then we have the software, and the software helps with managing your finances and helping you set up your systems and your processes. And then of course the coaching for those who want to go a little deeper. And we're going to expand out on some of our what we call mini courses like Restaurant Manager Certification. We're going to do a Restaurant Manager Certification for finances, a Restaurant Manager Certification for marketing, for things like that. And really what our goal here is to create this ecosystem where we've got training, we've got financial tools, we've got kind of everything that a restaurant owner needs to help them grow from a coaching perspective, right? We don't do marketing tools. We prefer to source that out to experts like yourself. We wanted to give you the tools and the packages that you need to understand what's going on in your restaurant and grow your brand and your business from the inside out.
It's a great idea. I think it's a very well needed product. I used to be part of, I think it was Restaurant Owner or something.
Restaurant Owner?
RestaurantOwner.com.
Those guys are fantastic.
Yeah. I downloaded. That's how I first got my first operations manual back in.
Yeah. For $97 a year or something. I even send people there. I think Restaurant Owner's fantastic. Jim Sullivan, and I forget his partner's name. Those guys do a phenomenal job.
I'll tell you. You know what? We're going to talk about this probably off the air or not. We can talk about it right now. I might talk to you about, for any new franchise or existing franchisees, forcing them to go through a training course with your company and hiring you once a month to have a conversation for consulting on how they're operating their business and going through the systems and procedures. I mean, do you have anybody else consulting, or are you the main guy?
I do all of the one-on-one consulting. I have a team that helps with support and with other things like that, but I do the consulting.
Yeah.
We are going to be building out over the next year or so more of a group coaching program. But like to what you're saying, I work with one brand right now. They're not franchise model, but they're growing. They have 5 units. They're going to open up 6 and 7 this year, 8, 9, 10 next year. But we do actually, as soon as we're done here, I do a weekly call with all of their operational staff as well as their GMs and AGMs. We do a once a week call for everyone. And then I work with each of their managers individually throughout the month. And so we make sure that we're hitting the company as well as each manager, because like you said, the owner truly believes that in order for her to grow, they have to be exposed to thinking outside of her thinking. And her thinking is phenomenal, but she only brings one method. So by having us both kind of work on their team, and I've done that with other groups. I've done that with franchises. So, I mean, again, you go, what do I always say? You go to a surgeon with back pain and they're going to want to cut you open. You go to a chiropractor with back pain, they're going to want to adjust you. You go to an acupuncturist with back pain, they're going to want to stick needles in your back. So surgeons cut is what I always say. Coaches coach. I'm a coach. My prescription is going to be coaching.
Yeah, no, it's very important. I just signed up myself with Tony Robbins' coaching program, the master classes, one-on-one for 6 months. They had a good deal going out. I signed up for it.
My first personal coach was a Tony Robbins coach.
Really?
I am a huge fan of Tony Robbins.
Me too. I went to my first UPW in Dallas. Thank God I went recently.
You walked on fire?
I walked on fire, baby. Life-changing.
So awesome.
I had 3 guys.
I walked on fire 4 times. I've gone to UPW 4 times.
No way.
Yeah, we did my wife and I did Master University at Fiji.
I was good. I said a date with destiny. I was going to do with my wife. I said, hey,
date with destiny. So my business started in what did I say, about 2000? Well, yeah, about 2012, 2013 was kind of when I really started getting going. But Date with Destiny was December of 2011 or December of 2012. I don't remember. But Date with Destiny was a turning point in my wife and my life. That was a point where we made some decisions and made some changes in our life. And things have just been on a vertical trajectory since then.
Really?
Date with Destiny is epic.
Epic. Yeah, well, I mean, so when I went there, I said, this is crazy. Well, first of all, I had 3 buddies, my brother and 2 friends were supposed to come with me. I bought all the tickets for everybody. Dallas, Texas. It was whatever, $700 a pop. Yeah. I said, let's all go.
UPW is the gateway drug.
Yeah.
UPW is just like, here's a little hit of some pot just to get you started before we sell you the cocaine and the heroin.
I almost paid $10,000 for the business mastery right then and there.
Well, I didn't pay $10,000. I paid $19,000 for my wife and I to go through.
We went to Fiji though.
Yeah, well, that doesn't include the trip. That's just the course. We still have to pay for the flight and the hotel room, and his hotel rooms are not cheap at his private island. I think we were paying $700 a night for like 12 nights. So, the whole thing probably cost $30,000 by the time we maybe more, because there's multiple courses. Probably $35,000 to $40,000 for us to go through Master University, my wife and I. But no question, it's a no-brainer.
No-brainer. Yeah, very cool.
I'd spend the money again in a second. I'd write the check right now.
That's interesting. Maybe that's a sign.
And we didn't have the money then. There were moments where we put it on a credit card. We did not have the money then. We put it on a credit card, and I remember driving home from the event that we signed up, and my wife and I were talking about it in the car, because she's the one who signed up. She knew how badly I wanted to do it, but I'm too practical. I wasn't going to do it. So she said she was going to the restroom. She took the credit card, signed up, and came back and handed me a hat and said, "We're in." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "I just put $19,000 on the credit card." I'm like, "We can't afford that." She's like, "We'll figure it out." And we did. We figured it out. I'm not even joking here. We could not afford it.
Wow. That's ballsy. It's good. Well, here, 10 years later or 8 years later.
Yeah.
And now you say, I would do it all over again, and I recommend it to anybody who's interested in that.
And we could easily afford it.
And you can easily afford it. I wonder how much that was part of the turning point.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, so you deal with, I'm sure you have a lot of customers that you see. Picking and choosing your customers is very important, and I'm sure you agree with that. And sometimes you have to say, I just can't work with you because you don't seem to like want to do this. You say it, but you don't actually follow. So what percentage of customers, restaurant owners or managers, do you find that you're pushing them more than they're pushing themselves?
Asking the question like that, my unfortunate answer is I'm probably pushing 80% of the clients harder than they're pushing.
Yeah.
That's not because they don't want to, it's because they're stuck in their own ways. They're stuck in their own habits. I won't work with someone who doesn't at least want to change. And I have a few of those. I've got one right now that I'm terminating our relationship early because they're not even wanting. They're not coming to phone calls prepared. They're coming late. I'm chasing after them. They're not putting in any effort at all. But everyone that I work with puts in the effort because otherwise I wouldn't work with them. But it's hard, like I say. So the way that you ask the question is I'm definitely pushing harder than they're pushing, but it's not for a lack of trying. It's for a lack of tools, resources, processes, like you said. So we have to break the cycle somewhere. And that's really where my job comes in is we have to break the cycle so we can create the freedom. And then in that freedom, we can work harder to build the systems and the processes to get you, quote unquote, unstuck.
Gotcha. So are most of your customers and the people you work with, are they fast casual, fast food? Are they more dining rooms? And if so, how many of them are going to be alive after COVID's over?
Every client that I work with will be alive when COVID is over. Every client that I work with is getting through COVID fine. Some are thriving, some are doing better, some are up 50%, some are down 50%, but they're all getting through it. And a lot of that is because of the processes and systems we put in place leading up to COVID. I've picked up a couple of new clients during COVID. But for the most part, they're all going to be fine. Now, the first question, I work with people in every arena from fine dining. I don't really work with anyone in super high-end fine dining, but to full service sit down, $40 a plate fine dining, all the way down to food trucks. So we work with it all.
Good. And so if you were to give just one piece of advice, I know it's hard, just one piece of advice for a struggling restaurant, what would you give them?
Think about and find out what is it that you're the best in the world at, the best in your city, the best in whatever it is that you are at, and then go to a mountaintop and scream that out loud. And I know that's broad advice, but I just find so many restaurant owners have no clue what it is that they're actually great at. They just open up their doors and hope that people walk through it. But if you're great at something, let the world know. Everywhere you go, wear your shirts, put what you're the best at on your shirts, put it on your social media, tweet about it, go find people to write about it, go find influencers, go talk to people in the media. You don't need a PR company. Submit, go join a charity and do whatever it is that you're the best in the world at for that charity and get the press to publish it and to cover it. Submit press releases. Like, go to the mountaintops and scream at the top of your lungs. The problem is that most people have no clue what it is that they're great at or haven't taken the time to develop it. Again, they just open up their doors and hope that people walk into them. The problem with that is unless you have an A+ location, you're not going to have enough traffic walking in front of your storefront to create the sales that you need. I hear it all the time from people who are wanting to open up a restaurant. They go, well, there's this really great location that would be phenomenal for my concept, but it's expensive. So I think we're going to go with this cheaper location. Well, the problem with the cheaper location is it doesn't have foot traffic. So unless you've got a concept that's going to get people to drive to you, you better go with the better location. And if we look at that, if we look at concepts like Cheesecake Factory, California Pizza Kitchen, these big concepts with huge menus, they're in the business of opening up their doors and letting the traffic fall in. But look where they go. They go right next to the busiest movie theaters in town. If you're not next to the busiest movie theater in town, people need to go out of their way to call you, to think about you, to go to you. And if you don't have a product that's unique and original, or that you're far and away the best at, it's a struggle. It really is. And then we start relying on couponing, and we start relying on other things to drive our traffic through our door. One of the funniest, it's not funny, but one of the things I hear a lot is, well, I can't raise my prices because everyone complains. I'm like, well, yeah, okay, let's look at it. Let's use a hamburger, for example. Well, if you're using the same frozen sesame seed bun that everybody else is using, and if you're using the same patty that everyone else is using, and you're using the same French fries that everyone else is using, and the same lettuce, tomato, pickles, and onions, or special sauce that everyone else is using, of course you can't raise your prices. Why would I pay more for that? So what is it that you do that no one else can do?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of that specific type of scenario, there's a company out here in Illinois and one in Indiana called Kumas Corner. Okay. They're the only burger place in the area that was able to charge $13 for a cheeseburger, because you walk in there, everybody who works there has tattoos and gauges in their ears. They're playing super heavy metal. All the walls are covered with like skulls and crazy, memorabilia. And all they have is like 4 things in the menu and like 12 different types of burgers with, habanero peppers and half pound this and, goat cheese and fried eggs. And so, yeah, absolutely. They differentiated themselves. They went really deep in what they're good at.
Yep.
And they stood out massively. And there's a line every day.
And they're creating an environment that's different. So it could be your environment, it could be your food, it could be both, but it's got to be something. So in this case, it sounds like it's both. They're creating awesome, unique burgers that you can't get anywhere else. So you want to go there and try their burgers, but they've also created a unique environment. Like, based on what you're saying, probably not my scene. Maybe I would go, maybe I wouldn't, but that's good. That's good. Stop trying to be the person who wants to be everything to everybody. You can't be everything to everybody. You can only be something to one person. And when you attract that one specific person, they will tell all of their friends who are similar to them about how cool your place is. When you try to be everything to everybody, the heavy metal rockers don't like it because you're playing whatever music. This person doesn't like it. So no one likes it. But when you draw a line in the sand and say, this is what we do, will other people go? Yes, other people will go, but really, this is what we do. This is who our target customer is. And I hear it all the time. I ask people, who's your target customer? They say, everybody. I'm like, it can't be everybody. You can't market to everyone. So if your target customer is, let's just say if you have a healthier salad brand, if your target customer is like a 25 to 32, 33-year-old, maybe single, female, a lot of time at the gym, a lot of time in yoga classes, right? Really fit and healthy. That's your target customer. Will her boyfriend go there to eat with her? Yes. Will her husband and their kid go to eat there? Yes. Will their parents, will grandparents go to eat there? Yes. Will teenagers go to eat there with their parents? Yes. But you can't advertise to all those people. So you pick an audience, you build a restaurant for the audience, you advertise to that audience, because that audience is very specific. How do you advertise to them? You go onto Facebook and go to all the local yoga groups in town. You go to the gym classes in town. You partner with the yoga studios. You partner with the gyms. You partner with everyone who already has that group of people coming. You focus on her and then let her bring all of her other people into your restaurant. But this idea of we're everything to everybody, good luck.
Yeah, absolutely. It's wise words. It's true. I mean, plus the budget won't allow you to market.
The budget won't allow it. You cannot spend the dollars. That's how niche marketing was created. Niche marketing was created because of a lack of resources.
The last question I have for you is, it's about after COVID. Do you think, and this is just an opinion, all right?
Oh, I wish I had facts. I wish I had the crystal ball.
Yeah, can you believe it? I can't believe it's still happening. I cannot believe that we're still going through this.
I called it early on.
Really?
Yeah.
My brother bought a hazmat suit, and
I didn't go that crazy.
And I think he bought he didn't tell me this, but I'm pretty sure he bought one of those bags that you put in the basement in case things, like survival.
A body bag?
No, survivalist bags.
Oh.
You got like battery operated lights and canned food and whatever.
You should have that anyways, but yeah.
Yeah, a bug out bag. That's what it's called.
Yeah, bug out bag. Yeah.
So when do you think they're going to get back to normal? Do you think we're ever going to be?
We're never going to get back to normal.
You come on, really?
No, that's the whole point. What is normal?
Well, being able to stand next to each other.
Huh?
Being able to stand next to each other at a restaurant with 20 people.
Okay, that's fine. So let's be specific when we say get back to normal.
Yeah.
Are we ever going to be able to stand next to each other? Of course. Do I know when? I don't know when. But going back to normal, the normal restaurant in the 20s doesn't exist anymore in the 1920s. The normal restaurant in the 1940s doesn't exist anymore. The normal restaurant in the 60s doesn't exist anymore. Everything changes and evolves. Are we ever going to go back to normal? No. Are we going to be able to stand next to each other again? Yes. But normal has been redefined.
But what changes are you thinking are going to be permanent?
Well, first of all, 30 to 40% of the restaurants that are out there right now are going to be gone. And that's, in a way, that's terrible. Don't get me wrong. It is terrible. But for those of you who are doing well and put in the work and do a great job and are listening to this podcast because you care about growing, this is your opportunity. If you don't seize the opportunity now, over the next 5 years, all the competition that left is going to be back. This is when you have to go out and find the talented staff that you've been bitching and complaining about for the last 8 years doesn't exist. Well, it does now. Are you finding that staff now? Are you building your systems and processes and procedures now? Are you changing your dining room now? Are you building out your tech stack now? Because if you don't, I am working with clients who are going to blow your mind with what is coming out of the pipeline in the next 6 months to a year. And don't be a statistic because you sat back waiting for normal. Normal doesn't exist anymore. The new normal is going to be curbside pickup. The new normal is going to be third-party delivery. The new normal is going to be everything that you hate about your restaurant right now is what our guests want. All COVID did was took a little fire that was burning and poured so much gasoline on top of it that it moved so fast. You see that bike in my background right there? That's the new gym. Everything I need is right here on this television, even my ugly Hawaiian shorts. But I could work out from the best instructors in the world on that television. My wife takes yoga classes on our TV from Peloton. She takes stretching classes on our TV from Peloton. She does weight training on our TV from Peloton. Why do you need a gym anymore? So everything's different.
Okay. Yeah. One last. Actually, I thought that was the last question. I do have another question. Well, you just said that 30 to 40% of restaurants are going to close. The implications of that are massive, and I don't disagree. I think that's.
And I don't know the numbers. Maybe it's 10%.
Guessing.
Maybe it's 50%. A large amount of restaurants have and will close.
Third party, the Ubers, the Postmates, all those third parties, the Grubhubs, they drive us nuts. Everybody hates them. You know that. But they do bring a lot of orders in. Do you encourage your restaurants to maximize the amount of orders you get and then to send some kind of pamphlet out with their orders to get them to somehow order through our website organically in the future? Is that what you
For some restaurants, yes. For some restaurants, no. For restaurants that are still built on the old model, meaning they have a dining room, they have their own delivery, then absolutely yes. For restaurants that are building the new model or are adapting to the new model, then I say no to that. Fuck your dining room. Fuck having your own delivery. Just outsource all that. So it kind of depends. And again, that's where it's some yes, some no, some in the middle. That is a phenomenal strategy, though. If you have the ability to process orders yourself, which everyone should have their own online ordering, the question is how are we going to deliver it or pick up? But yes, you can use the third-party apps to generate business for you, and you can pay them large amounts of money to advertise you and get you to the top of their pages, and they will generate business. then include some kind of a coupon or special offer for the next order to go through your site. It's a great strategy.
Okay. I love it. I love it. Ryan, I want to say thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us over here at the Always Direct podcast. You've been awesome. Everybody check them out, therestaurantboss.com.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks
Ryan.
Thanks for listening to the Always Direct podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.